we come to the wedding cake. We haven't opened this box up yet, so please take it on trust that it's actually in there. It definitely did come from their wedding. This is lot number 58, and we're going to open the bidding here. We have a lot of bids here. We're going to open the bidding at 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 1,000, 1,250, 1,500, 1,750, 2,000, 2,250, 2,500, 2,750, 3,000, 3,250, 3,500, 3,750, 4,000, 4,250, 4,500, 4,750, 5,000, 5,500 ahead of you at 55. A gentleman's bid at 55. I have 5,500, 6,000, 6,500, 7,000, 7,500, 8,000, 8,500, 9,000. At $9,000 on the far back on the left, 9,500. At 9,500, 10,000, 11,000. The ladies bid on the aisle at 11,000, 12,000, 13,000. At 13, 14, 15. Will you say 16, sir? It's yours at 15, sir. 16,000. At 16, 17,000. 18,000. 19,000. 20,000. 21,000. 22,000. 23,000. 24,000. Right up front at $24,000. I'm selling it then at $24,000. Last chance, $25,000. I know this is the most expensive piece of wedding cake we've ever sold. $25,000. Will you say 26? 26,000. At 26. Will you say 27, sir? You've come so far. At $26,000, then, we're right up front at $26,000. Sold for $26,000.
When we were in the audience, we were just thinking, okay, so, you buy it, and then what do you do with it? Because you can't eat it, you can never open the box.
It is almost like a time capsule. It is something like this being frozen in time, and it's not just a piece of wedding cake. It is a great representation of true romance.
The title of Duke of Windsor. Edward, now exiled from England, waited impatiently for Wallace's divorce to become final.
There was a telephone call from London. My divorce decree had now become absolute. I telephoned David in Austria. Wallace, he said, I shall be at Condé in the morning.
It was a supremely happy moment. At last, they could be together before the world. On June 3rd, 1937, at the Château de Condé in central France, Edward and Wallace took the wedding vows that would last a lifetime. Wallace was 40 years old. The Duke was 42. No member of the royal family was present at the marriage. Right before the ceremony, the couple received word that Wallace was to be denied the rank of Her Royal Highness, which was a cruel disappointment to both of them. She was to be known simply as the Duchess of Windsor. This album contains their wedding pictures. Many of them were taken by the famous British artist and photographer Cecil Beaton. As I go through them, I'm impressed by how serious the bride and groom look. There's not a smiling portrait in the bunch. You can see sadness in both their faces, as though they were weighted down by the historic impact of their marriage. But in picture after picture, they also look as though they belong together, as though they were meant to stand side by side like this. The wedding album has an estimated auction price of $8,000 to $12,000. Let's watch what happens.
We're going to open here at $8,000. I have 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, at 12,000, 13, 14, 15,000. A lot of bids here. 15, 16, 17, 18,000. At 18,000 to the absentee bidder at 18. 19,000 on the telephone at 19,000. At $19,000 at 20,000. At 20,000 against you, 21, 22. You say 23, 23,000, 24. 25, 26. At 26,000, it's the ladies' bid in the room at $26,000. 27, 28, at $28,000. All done at $28,000. Sold for $28,000, $23.72. Thank you.
The woman who bought the wedding album is a collector of royal memorabilia. She thinks she got quite a bargain. This dramatic picture of Wallis on her wedding day shows her standing before the makeshift altar at which she would soon be married. The altar was simply an old chest that had been covered with this tablecloth, which Wallis unpacked from her trunk. The cloth is made of fine linen. The fabric is very sheer. It's beautifully embroidered and appliqued with ivy leaves and berries. It has a graceful wave-shaped gold lame border. It's reported that the Duke thought it looked marvelous on the altar and said it couldn't be better. The estimated auction price of the cloth and its 12 matching napkins is $5,000 to $8,000. Let's see how the auction comes out.
Fair warning.
The most treasured wedding gift of all may have been this beautiful silver basket, which came from Winston Churchill and his wife. Churchill was the king's friend, and he understood the power of their relationship. He once said of Edward,
"He delighted in her company and found in her qualities as necessary to his happiness as the air he breathed. In her presence, he was a completed being."
Churchill chose a fine wedding gift, this intricate basket, which was made by the fine English silversmith William Plummer in 1761. The oval basket has a very elaborate pierced design and is richly embossed with scrolls, flowers, and foliage. This inscription is on the bottom. It says, "To His Royal Highness, the Duke of Windsor, on the occasion of his marriage, June 3rd, 1937, from Winston and Clementine Spencer Churchill." The auction estimate is $15,000 to $20,000. Let's watch.
We're going to open the bidding here at $15,000, $16,000, $17,000, $18,000, $19,000, $20,000, $21,000, $22,000, $23,000, $24,000, $25,000, $26,000, $27,000, $28,000, $29,000, $30,000, $32,500, $35,000, $37,500, $40,000, $42,500, $45,000, $47,500, $50,000, $52,500, $55,000, $57,500 in the back. I have 58 with me. 60,000 in the back of the room. It's $60,000. At 60,000, it's the ladies' bid in the far back at $60,000. Are we all done at $60,000? 62,500. Will you say 65? 65,000. 67,500. 70,000. At $70,000, it's your bid, ma'am, at $70,000. Sold for $70,000.
$70,000 is certainly a lot of money, but the basket has great historical significance, and it's one of the items I like best in the entire auction.
I was very interested in the first item that was offered tonight, which was the miniature portrait of Prince Edward in his christening robe. And I also took the Bible, number 8, and the abdication and the accession speech. And I also purchased her wedding portrait for her first marriage. It was under $100,000.
The Duke and Duchess of Windsor were, in their time, the most fashionable couple in the world. They were famous style setters with an innate flair for fashion. This part of the exhibition has been designed to take us inside the Windsor wardrobe to discover the elements that made up their consummate sense of style. The Duchess's name appeared on the best dressed list for 40 years. She possessed a self-assured elegance and distinctive style that made it a fashion event when she merely entered a room. She was the first to admit that she was neither young nor beautiful, but her impeccable appearance made a powerful impression on everyone around her. Classic lines and simplicity were her fashion trademarks.
She said of herself, you know, I'm not particularly beautiful, I'm not young, I'm not good-looking. The only thing I can do is dress better than anyone else, so that when I enter a room, everyone will look at me, and then my husband can feel proud. She had a position, and she dressed to it.
The Duke of Windsor always preferred to start a fashion rather than follow one. He loved to experiment with colors and patterns, mixing plaids and stripes and checks. He bought clothes of the finest quality and expected them to last a lifetime, which most of them did.
The Duke was one of the most influential figures of male fashion ever in the 20th century. His entire approach to fashion was something he called dress soft. Dress soft meant exactly that whatever he wore should be comfortable, should be, easy to wear. And he was one of the first men to wear suits that were unstructured. But he was dazzling. He was one of the few men who could combine stripes with spots, with whatever, and still look absolutely wonderful. It was this mixing, this knowledge of just how far one could go before you stopped, before it became bad taste. And he knew exactly. He was a master at this.
The Duke has just stepped off an airplane wearing his Riviera resort suit, complete with a fashionable Panama hat, correspondent shoes, and pug dog. He is the very essence of style. This whole suit is soft and unstructured. The unlined jacket and pants are made of coffee-colored slub silk, which has a cool summer look. There's a blue and white striped shirt and a dashing bow tie. It has a look that made fashion history. The auction estimate for the whole outfit is $700 to $1,000. Let's see what happens.
Fair warning.
I'm amazed at how small he was. I mean, a 29-inch waist. There are very few of those anymore, and at least American men.
Before Jackie came along, she was the one to watch. I mean, everything she did was photographed. She always looked fabulous. I heard somewhere on a TV special that they said that she spent an average of 4 hours getting dressed every time she went out, and I thought, well, I want to see what she put on to look that great, to spend that much time getting ready to go somewhere.
The Duchess had shoes especially made to match each of her suits and gowns. She owned dozens of exquisitely embroidered scarves. She thought her hands were ugly, so she owned 135 pairs of gloves in every style, fabric, and color. She was frequently photographed wearing great evening gowns like this one, designed for her by Christian Dior in the fall of 1948. It's made of soft sapphire blue velvet. The unusual stand-up neckline has wing-like points which frame the face, and it's finely embroidered with gold thread and beads and clusters of pearls. The gown has a narrow waist that flares out at the hip. It's been cut to emphasize and flatter the Duchess's slender figure. She looks great in it. The effect is simple yet dramatic. The auction estimate is $10,000 to $15,000. Let's see how it sells.
Fair warning.
This portrait of the Duchess was done less than 3 weeks before the abdication. To me, it perfectly captures the elegance and charm that the king found so captivating. The watercolor drawing was made by the fashionable London artist Cecil Beaton, who was the Duchess's friend. He also took their wedding photographs. He sketched the Duchess wearing this blouse, but he changed the colors to yellow and purple. The Duchess kept this picture where she could see it every day. She hung it in front of the mirror over her bathtub. The auction estimate on it is $10,000 to $15,000.
We're going to open the bidding here at $10,000. I have 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19,000, 20,000. It's with me. 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 32.5 on my left side at 32.5. That's 35,000. You say 37, 37.5. You say 40. 40,000. 42.5. At 45,000, 47.5, 50,000, 55,000, 60,000, 65,000, 70,000, 75,000, 80,000, 85,000, 90,000, 100,000. At $100,000, 110,000, 120,000. At $120,000, then, are we all done at $120,000? Selling at $120,000. Sold for $120,000. Cecil Beaton would be proud.
$120,000, an astonishing amount for the watercolor. It was bought by an American private collector.
Very high, very surprising, and
very quick. This beautiful mansion in Paris was the primary residence of the Duke and Duchess of Windsor, and the exhibition areas here at Sotheby's have been set up to give you the sense that you're walking through their Paris house, room by room. You can feel a scale and grandeur in some rooms that is decidedly royal. They're filled with formal elegance and rich decoration. Other rooms are cozier and have more personal touches. For this was the house that the Windsors finally came to call home. After their marriage, they spent almost 20 years in restless travel, continually on the move from France to the United States and back again. They kept hoping that they would be able to return to England someday. But by 1956, when they moved into this house, they had accepted that their exile was permanent.
Particularly in the Duke's private apartments, is that he surrounded himself in exile with images of England and memories and souvenirs, mementos of his career as Prince of Wales and King, views of the royal palaces, portraits of his family, whether photographs or oils. He maintained a very strong link, emotional link with England. I think that the relationship between the Duchess and the royal family was always strained, but in a sense she was never really forgiven, either by the royal family or really by the British people, for what they perceived to be the theft of the fairy tale prince.
Since England was closed to them, the Duke and Duchess made the best of what they had, each other. They settled into this gracious house, which has now been restored to perfection. The Duchess was famous for her skills as a hostess. She gave elegant small dinner parties at which liveried footmen dressed like this served dinner for 10 to 12 people. The food was delicious, the wines were perfect, and the Duchess made sure the dinner conversation was bright and sparkling.
No matter what masterpieces the chef may create, no matter how beautifully the table may be set, the success of a dinner party is ultimately dependent upon the company.
She set a beautiful table. The dishes are French Limoges porcelain. They have a monogram with the Duke and Duchess's initials interlaced at the top. The crystal glasses have a different monogram, also with the initials interlaced beneath the crown. The unusual flatware has white porcelain handles decorated with foliage. The china service contains 183 pieces in all. The estimated auction price is $10,000 to $15,000. Let's see where it ends up.
Fair warning.
The Duchess was never granted royal status by the British establishment, but she was a queen in her own home. She couldn't use the royal crest, but she could put her own monogram on everything, including all her tablecloths and napkins and bed linens. This monogram has intertwined W's for Wallace Windsor and has red and green arrows going through it. The design has been hand embroidered onto a white linen coverlet. It's had excellent care. The Duchess had a staff of 18 household servants, and she had the sheets on her bed removed and ironed twice a day. She couldn't bear to see a single crease on them. The estimate on the coverlet is $300 to $500. Let's watch.
I have $100 bill on this at $100, $200, $300, $400, I'm bidding at $400, $500, $600, $700, $800, $800, I'm bidding $800, $900, at $900. Any advance of $900? At $900, $1,000, $1,100, $1,100, I'm bidding $11, $12, $13, at $1,300, $14, $15, at $1,500 against the telephone, $1,500, I'm bidding $15, absentee bid, at $1,500, $16, $1,600, then on the phone, $1,600, any advance, $16, fair warning now, $1,600, $16, $1,600. $1,600, and that's the telephone.
$1,600 is more than 5 times the low estimate. Not surprising at this auction.
I think I'm a victim of the cult of celebrity, so I would like very much to have it in my house and to point it out to people and say, look, royalty touched this.
Here's the Duke of Windsor with his favorite pug dog named Dizzy. And here's the Duchess with a rare smile on her face as she takes their 5 pugs for a walk. The Duke and Duchess raised pugs, took them to dog shows, and collected their images on paintings, porcelain, and even pillows. These little fellows were surely among their treasures. They're lined up at the foot of the Duchess's bed, sitting atop a velvet settee. The colors and markings are charmingly realistic. Each dog has an expressive face and a blue ribbon around his neck. The pug pillows even match the pale blue color of the Duchess's bedroom. The estimate is only $200 to $300 for a pair of pillows, but pugs are so closely associated with the Windsors that they may sell for much more.
Fair warning.
They were all, you know, the dog things are very sweet. I think, I can only imagine how they would have raised their children if this is how the pugs lived.
One of the first things you saw when you entered the Windsor's Paris mansion were the grand tables that stood on either side of the entrance hall. Their elegant presence was a strong reminder that you were entering the realm of royalty, as if you needed one. The majestic eagles were first carved out of wood. Then the wood was covered with a thin layer of plaster and gold leaf. The eagle is standing on a rock. The curved tabletop is made of wood as well. It's been painted to simulate marble. This is a handsome imitation of a style that was popular in France in the early 1800s. The estimated auction price is $20,000 to $25,000 for the pair. Let's see what happens.
Bids at $8,000 to begin it, now at $8,000, $9,000, $10,000, $11,000, $12,000, now at $12,000. At $12,000, $13,000, $14,000, $15,000, $16,000, $17,000, $18,000, $19,000, $20,000, $21,000, $22,000, $23,000, $24,000, $25,000, $26,000, $27,000, $28,000, $29,000, $30,000. 32,500, 35,000, 37,500, 40,000, 42,500, 45,000, 47,500, 50,000, 55,000, 60,000, 65,000, 70,000, 75,000, 80,000, 85,000, 90,000, 95,000. $100,000. One more. At $100,000, that's yours, sir. At $100,000 now at 100. Say 110. $110,000 now at 110. Yes, it's a pair. $120,000 now at 120. $120,000 then at 120. Your bid, sir. At 120. Sold at 120.
$120,000. Wow, that was exciting. Came the personification of romantic royalty. They had no children, but they were family enough for each other. The Duke put it this way.
There was always something lacking. My life appeared to form a disconnected pattern. Duty without decision, service without responsibility, pomp without power. In the meantime, something happened which was destined to change the whole course of my life. I had met Wallace Warfield Simpson.
Any woman who has been loved as I have been loved, and who too has loved, has experienced life in its fullness. To this, I must add one continuing regret. I have never known the joy of having children of my own. All I can say is that everything taken together, I have finally found a great measure of happiness and contentment.
They never lost an ounce of their style and elegance, and they seemed to enjoy each other even more as the years went on. In fact, the sense of a couple in love is just as strong in this picture as it was on their wedding day. The Duke and Duchess presented each other with tokens of love throughout their married life. Here, for example, is a specially bound first edition copy she gave him of her book, The Heart Has Its Reasons, published in 1956. The printed dedication reads, "To David," and the Duchess has added a note calling him "my darling" and signing it with her initial W. The auction estimate for the book is $5,000 to $7,000. Let's see what happens.
All right, bids now begin at $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000. Here now with me at $7,000. At $7,000 now for it at $7,000. Here with me at $7,000. At $7,000 to the order bidder, then at $7,000. $8,000 yours, Stephen, at $8,000. At $8,000 then on the phone left at $8,000. I have $8,000 then left. $9,000 then yours, Stephanie, at 9. At $9,000 then Ford at 9 now. $10,000 at 10. $11,000 now. With $11,000, say 12. At $11,000 now, Ford at 11. Yours, Stephanie, 11,000, seated right on the phone. Sold it is at $11,000.
$11,000. Now someone new will have a memory to treasure.
Personally, all the things that I have in my life, I would love to see have another life with someone loving them and treasuring them and admiring them and keeping them. So I think it's a great way of making history come alive for us.
History wonders if the Duke ever regretted giving up his kingdom for the Duchess. If he did, he never said so. But here's something that shows us that he was deeply aware of what he'd lost. This old cotton handkerchief has been monogrammed with the imperial crest. It's been carefully darned and laundered so often that it's almost transparent in spots. Realizing that this handkerchief could never be embroidered in this way again, the Duke preferred to repair it rather than part with it. It is a poignant souvenir of the man who sacrificed crown and empire for the woman he loved. The auction estimate is $600 to $800 for the handkerchief. Let's see what happens.
Fair warning.
Nobody would give up a throne, they would think. But he did, and he stayed with her, and he just loved her to the end. And I think if he could have given her the world, plus the royal title, he would have been happy.
The Duke and Duchess purchased this landscape from a New York art dealer around 1960. It's by the French impressionist Edgar Degas, who is famous for his paintings of ballet dancers. The artist first created this image in oil and then finished it with pastel chalk. This picture hung unobtrusively on a wall behind the piano in the Windsor salon. As you can see, there are other pictures all around it. They didn't hang it in a prominent place where it would be sure to be noticed by visitors, but where they themselves could enjoy it. The estimate for the Degas is $60,000 to $80,000. Let's watch the auction.
We're going to open the bidding here at $50,000. I have $50,000, $50,000, $52,500, $55,000, $57,500, $60,000. Right here, $65,000, $70,000, $75,000, $80,000. At 80, we say 85,000, 90,000, 95,000, 100,000. At 100,000, 105, 110, 115, 120. It's with Amy at 120. I have $120,000. Fair warning at $120,000. Are we all done at $120,000? Sold for $120,000.
$120,000. I wonder where the new owner's going to hang it. The story of the Duke and Duchess has attained the romantic power of legend. It's been more than 60 years since King Edward had to choose between his throne and the woman he loved. And even today, their story has the power to capture our hearts. The breach with the Duke's family and the people of England was never to be healed. In 1967, the exiled Duke and Duchess traveled to England for a dedication of a memorial to the Duke's mother, Queen Mary. The Duke fell ill in 1972, and Queen Elizabeth paid a visit to his bedside in Paris. After his death, his body was moved with full honors to England, where he lay in state at Windsor Castle. On their 35th wedding anniversary, the Duchess bid him farewell, and for the first time was invited to stay at Buckingham Palace for 3 nights. 3 years later, the Duchess went into seclusion until her death in 1986 at almost 90 years of age, and all their possessions remained just as she had left them. Of all the things they owned, this simple rectangular table may be the one they treasured most. It represents the ultimate romantic sacrifice. It was at this table on December 10th, 1936, that the King of England signed away his throne. The Duke had this plaque made for it. It says, on this table, King Edward VIII signed the instrument of abdication. 10:30 a.m., December 10th, 1936. The table is made of fine mahogany, and it dates back to 1755. But of course, its major value comes from its history. The pre-sale estimate is $30,000 to $50,000.
We will open the bidding on this lot at $30,000. I have $30,000, I have $35,000, I have $40,000, $45,000, $50,000, $55,000, $60,000, $65,000, $70,000, $75,000, $80,000, $90,000, $100,000. I have $110,000, $120,000. I have $130,000, $140,000, $150,000, $160,000, $170,000, $180,000, $190,000, $200,000 with me, $225,000 in the book. At $225,000, $250,000. At $250,000 on the telephone at $250,000. $275,000, $300,000, at $300,000, $325,000, $350,000, $375,000, at $375,000 on the telephone with Jen at $375,000. At $375,000 then. Fair warning to all of you at $375,000. All done at $375,000. Sold for $375,000.
And so the memories of a royal romance disperse into the hands of thousands of people around the world who now own something that once belonged to the Duke and Duchess of Windsor. And all those people now have a good reason to retell their story. And as long as they do, the romance will live on.